All right. Good morning, Carol and Wally.
Good morning,
Morning.
Bob. How are you?
Okay, we are here Wednesday morning for Harlem Emergency Network COVID-19 update for what is today, October 21st, 2020. Can you believe it? I think
I tell you,
we've been doing these updates for about 6 months now,
Wow.
and unfortunately, it doesn't look like we're stopping anytime soon. So, the
yeah,
top Our top story today is that U.S. COVID infections are over 60,000 a day. Crazy.
well, people still, for some reason, just don't want to believe that this thing is going on.
hmm And experts are saying it's triple what the daily average was back in June. And going into the winter months, there are several state leaders that are reimposing measures a little late, I would say. The national 7-day case average has increased at least 18% since last week, and it's 61% higher than it was 5 weeks ago. And most of the experts think that it's going to be a difficult fall and a difficult winter.
And these are those rural counties and states that weren't hit in the beginning. Now they're getting it.
hmm
Before it was like the densely populated areas like New York, Jersey. But now
hmm
the rural towns, that's where the rise is, in particular North and South Dakota, you
hmm
know.
hmm So
Wow.
North and South Dakota are really looking bad, and they attribute this to a biker rally that they had not long ago. With what was it, 250,000 people at this biker rally?
Yeah.
hmm And so they're saying that North Dakota COVID cases are amongst the highest rate of all countries globally.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's no telling where they took this to, because they came from, internationally, they came from all around the country.
hmm
So it's no telling where that can go, how that can morph in different places.
hmm
But it was early on. It's showing up now, and it was at a time when mask, face coverings, the protocols were put in place. And these are like 20 to 29-year olds. So, again, one more, the myth of it happening only to people who are, comorbidities, who have comorbidities, or people who are in their elder years are the most
hmm
vulnerable.
hmm
And I think at that period of time, it was contributed to just urban areas. And when you say urban areas, that has a lot of connotations.
Hmm.
hmm
And so they really are not used to these modes and the steps that we are starting to do naturally. And if we, at least if we don't do it, we're conscious of it. But
hmm
this is something that they haven't had to deal with. And so I think it's catching them with their pants down.
hmm
Yeah.
hmm Hospitalization rates are up in 42 states now. Um, that's really not that's not good at all, because usually the death rate follows the hospitalization rates, and the fact that this deep into it that those are going up again. I mean, people are basically calling this the third surge. And the third surge is happening because they didn't ever really flatten the curve from the first and the second. I mean, we did in our corner of the country, but the rest of the country just like acted like it wasn't really a thing.
And if you stop and think, if there was any other type of incident or event that was taking out this many people, I mean, you think about airplane accidents, even wars.
hmm
Wars don't kill this many people in
hmm
one day unless you drop 10 atom bombs or something like that.
hmm
So you know, taking this lightly is, I don't know how people can do it, especially the government.
Hmm.
You know,
I mean, the fact is, we lost less than 4,000 people in 9/11, and the country lost its mind. And we're up to 220,000 and counting. And people are trying to act like, well, you know, it's just like the flu.
you know, it's
Right.
really amazing. Four
And you
thousand.
see so many government officials that are still not enforcing these regulations. And
Hmm.
that, you know, that is just beyond unbelievable. Especially, it took all of this in North and South Dakota for them to go to mandate that face coverings be worn. And and then you have a lot of people who's just talking about face coverings, but they still forgot that it's a three-step process,
Hmm.
and they are not sanitizing and they are not socially distancing.
Hmm.
So they're wearing the mask. And then you have a lot of people, like families, getting together and they're pulling the mask down, and then they stop socially distancing. And all of those things have to stay in place.
Hmm.
I was watching personal friends of mine, and I'm looking at them and I'm like, oh my God, they had a baby shower and no one has a mask on. And they're all huddled together and taking pictures and all over the place. And it was just so scary.
Hmm. So what we're dealing with here in New York, 40 U.S. areas are now on the travel restriction list for New York.
That's foreign or international or national.
No, that's national. There's 40
National.
states that we can't go to without quarantine. Or quarantining when we come back. Uh, yeah, there's 40 hotspots on the New York quarantine list. Um, and Governor Cuomo is also advising to cut down on any non-essential travel in the tri-state area.
Mm.
Yeah, because the numbers are starting to rise in Jersey
Hmm.
drastically. I mean, like Wale said yesterday, that's like a train stop away
Hmm.
from New York.
Yep. Hmm. And people
And
are
like
coming
a lot
in
of those people work here in the city. A lot of people travel from Jersey to New York to work.
every
So,
day. Yep.
right.
Hmm.
I don't know, but again, um we can't push the fact home that we really need to buckle down now with the cooler weather coming in.
The
And
other problem you have, every state is doing something different. So New
yeah.
Jersey is showing an uptick, but Connecticut wants to ease travel advisory restrictions. And it's like there, because there's no national leadership on this. It's very, very hard to get all the different states on the same page, and this is one of the reasons for the problem, because it just takes one state in the middle of a cluster to do something stupid, and then they all are infected.
Hmm. Well, wasn't that the way it's always been, where every state was pretty much on their own?
Yeah, but in issues of national safety, that's where there's an expectation that the federal government will provide guidance. And truth be told, many of the governors have asked for this guidance. It certainly Cuomo has been very, very clear about saying that, he's not, there's only but so much he can do as governor of New York. And early on, he was asking for guidance from the government that still is yet to happen, because for political reasons, they wanted to act like this thing was just going to go away. Um,
They wanted to, or they are.
Oh, they are. Yeah. So
Yeah.
I also want to play a little video talking about there's more information on how COVID has affected the sense of smell from people who suffered from it. So let's take a quick look at this. Uh,
Chicken itself, it's almost nauseating.
My favorite thing is coffee. I drink it many times a day. When I smell it now, it smells like burnt tires.
Garlic here. When I'm smelling this, like straight up, it's like garbage.
I went from no smell to like maybe 2-3 weeks of mild smells returning, and then the smell went from coming like returning gradually, like slowly, mildly, to just taking a very bad turn. You go through that, maybe it's just a weird day, maybe something is spoiled, maybe the coffee is rancid, maybe, and then you realize like it's not, I thought there was something going on in my house. I really thought something died in my garage.
It's been about 3 weeks since I've been smelling that burning plastic smell when I eat or shower or brush my teeth. Normally when you're sick and something's wrong, you go to the doctor. They give you the comfort of knowledge. This is what it is. This is the treatment, but it's not really cut and dry in this situation. It's unknown, and I think that's the unnerving part.
I think the hardest part about it is not knowing how to explain it to people, and it's kind of like it's become such like a big part of my life because it's the thing that I'm dealing with every day. I've had a lot of anxiety about having COVID and not knowing like what effects it can have on my life going forward, and when I'm still having lingering side effects 7 months later, 8 months later from when I was diagnosed, then like it really worries me.
yeah, that's it's really scary that we're still just learning what this thing really does.
Yeah.
And it just keeps showing up so many different ways continuously.
And they're not even talking any more about it mutilating, changing, constantly changing. So,
Yeah.
Some of the what would I say, healing uh, uh, methods that worked before may not even work now if it's constantly changing.
Exactly.
And another thing, they're talking about this vaccine, and okay, let's say the vaccine is good. However, they're talking about it has to be stored at a extremely cold temperature, far below zero, where there are very few locations that have that ability to store anything at at those temperatures. Plus, storing at those temperatures is dangerous. I used to sail on ships, and they have some of the gas that we get. They put on container ships that they freeze the gas so that it shrinks. And those ships are some of the most dangerous vehicles in existence because if one of those blows, it's like an atomic bomb. It could take out a whole harbor. So if you're using that kind of technology around the city, and you don't even have the infrastructure to store that kind of uh, medicine. Uh, First of all, it'll probably be, in order for them to make money, they'll probably issue it or try to find ways to get around not storing it at those degrees, and that in itself might kill people. You know,
Hmm.
I'm
Hmm.
very I'm very interested in finding out how they intend to distribute this. This is really, I mean, storing something at those degrees is not just like having a freezer. Believe me.
Hmm.
which means there'd have to be so many different locations, which would cause an even greater danger. But also the ability for people to get to it.
Absolutely.
So either way,
And then in order to uh, convert it from that frozen state to a usable state means that you have to have a certain quantity in order to be able to move people through it on a constant rate.
right?
So that means you would have to have lines and lines and lines. It sounds crazy to me personally. The logistics of it.
Well, I figure if we've got 113,000 people in East Harlem and they only gave us one early testing site, I guess they're used to us, they want us to
No,
stand in some lines.
no, the East Harlem, Central Harlem, the Bronx, we all gonna have to go downtown. They probably have one place in New York or two places in New York, period, or
Yeah,
one place in each borough. You
and
know,
it won't be up here,
of course not.
Of course
so
not. Yeah, but they'll put something in Central Park,
yeah.
So there is one report today that I would consider, somewhat good news. And so there's a new report showing that the immunity can last for months. So there is, let's see, this is coming out of, there are actually three new reports showing that the immunity can last for months and maybe even longer. And so, let's see, a University of Arizona College of Medicine has shown it can last at least 5 to 7 months and maybe longer. And there are a couple of other studies that are supporting this. So they're seeing that the antibodies are still working, even months later. Now we've had some reports of people who've had reinfections, but this team has tested close to 30,000 people and have looked at some people who've been tested several times. So they're saying that this is good news in the case of immunity of people who've got it. Now, this is not the same thing as herd immunity, but it's basically saying that if people have had it, it is likely that that immunity can last for a good while. They still don't know how long, um, but they're comparing it to the original SARS. So the original SARS virus they're still seeing people who have had immunity 17 years after infection. And so one of the doctors is saying that if SARS-CoV-2, which is the COVID-19 variation, is anything like the first one, they expect antibodies to last at least 2 years, and it would be unlikely for anything shorter. So that is at least some good news in terms of protection for people who have had it. But as we heard in the earlier report, we're still seeing lingering health effects that people are still reporting. So it's not like people who have had it are out of the woods from it. They're out of the woods from it, maybe not getting it again, or at least have some protection. But people are still looking at the long-term effects on heart health, on lung health, on sense of smell, on I've heard things about people's feet. digestive system. So this virus is just a health nightmare.
Well, the interesting thing about that is that you see a lot of studies of the people who got it and the
Hmm.
effects of COVID, but you don't hear a lot of people. You know, the media is not really representing um, the views of the people who have had it. The
Hmm.
best one to get that information from are those people. And it
Hmm.
seems like surprisingly, you hear so little from people. Most of what we know are things like this video that you showed, or,
Hmm.
you know, people that we know have had it and they've told us what they went through. But when you
Hmm.
really think about it, I think one of the things that may drive it home more is if the media invested in that and
Hmm.
had people consistently coming out and telling people this is what they go through.
Hmm.
This is what people who have recovered are suffering through, and for the real life tales of someone who not only survived it but are still suffering with symptoms of it,
Hmm.
like these people in this video.
Yep.
I think that the respiratory problems, are even more major, and that these people need to be interviewed. And it's just ironic how, you know, like 9/11, we heard from the victim families from 9/11 for months. And every year you hear from victim family members. Of course, you couldn't hear from the victims. But even the people that survived 9/11, you really didn't hear from them with the trauma that they were going through as much as you heard about the family members who were traumatized by it. And I think it needs to be the responsibility of the country that if you really want to try to bring this thing under some form of control, that people need to get more of a sense from actual um, victims of it.
Well, the other thing is that I don't think we've honored the dead. I mean, there's been no national recognition about the tremendous loss of life that this country has had, and you know, even here in New York, we lost so many people, and there was no opportunity to grieve for most of the people who were lost in April and May. People couldn't even have a funeral. And there's been no effort to at least address this. And I think from a mental and spiritual standpoint, it's going to come back. You know, grief doesn't go away, and I know that there are a lot of people who are still hurting over this, mad and angry that our respective governments and private industry leaders did not heed the warnings and take the steps appropriate to protect our population from this.
Yeah, generally it's like communities. I've heard of a few community remembrances, but nothing nationally, and certainly nothing from the government. That not that I expected, you know, but no recognition. You know, we get the news briefs, and you know that's generally from our governor. The sorrow that's felt about the loss of life, but what I mean? Everything with this virus, let's be honest, it has to come from the top. It
Hmm.
has to come from the leadership. And
Hmm.
that would be insane to expect that because we have no leadership.
Hmm.
For the first time since there's been something known as a president in the United States when the office has actually been vacant. I mean,
Well,
literally vacant.
we are 13 days from an opportunity to do something about it. I don't need to say it, but I'm going to say it anyway. We all need to get out and vote. Some of us have voted already. thank you. If you voted, thank you. If you haven't voted, make sure you vote. If you know people who are having issues, we have to work as a community to help each other to make sure that not only that we vote, but that our votes are registered and counted. And that's whether you're listening to us here in New York or where you're anywhere in this country. People are going through some real challenges to be able to cast their vote. And it's more important than ever because until we get a change in leadership, we're just going to, the, all the trends seem to be pointing toward this getting worse as we go deeper into the fall and into the winter. And we're not naysayers. We're not here. We're not gloom and doom. We would love to just come in and have the report that, oh, this thing has disappeared and it's going away. And we're going to have to stop doing COVID-19 reports because it looks like it's not going to be a thing anymore. But every week we look at the trends, and it's not just a U.S. trend. You know, people in the U.S. are so focused around us, and I don't know how people can think it's a hoax when it's going on all over the world. There are surges that are happening in Europe as well, and in England they've shut down Wales for they've done a 2 week lockdown that you literally can't leave your home for the next 2 weeks for anything other than essential workers. Um, and that's because they're having a surge there and they're trying to do their best to shut it down. And they're dealing with some of the same problems of different municipalities and different people running things and doing things in different ways. So it's not, we're not alone in this, but we are in worst case because, we didn't take the steps nationally to really bring it down. And so our baseline is much higher than other countries. So it doesn't take much for us to surge again because we never really slowed it in many areas of the country. It just took a little longer to get out to some of the rural areas, but now the rural areas are some of the worst in the world. And that it comes specifically from people's habits because if people were not congregating in large numbers, it couldn't spread this fast. It's as simple as that, especially when you're in New York, we had to deal with the density. We have so many people in such a small area that it's almost, that if we didn't shut things down, it would have, I don't know what things would look like. But in those large areas, if they just stopped the large gatherings for, month, 2 months straight, they could get a handle on this. But no, we have to, they have to show, their whatever they think their American independence or whatever um, nonsense is in their mind, like the virus cares.
Right. Even Canada, they're mimicking Cuomo. We don't want any of you over here. you
Oh
know.
yeah, the Canada border is shut down. So if you were thinking of taking that trip to Montreal to get away from this, or and that's another reason why we got to vote because all those people were saying, if he wins again, I'm leaving. You're not going anywhere. There's nowhere. There's nowhere you can go.
Right.
Nobody wants us.
No one. Nobody wants us. We are stuck. So we have to make it work here in this country. So it starts with we have to fire the guy who's famous for firing people.
Um, for those
Exactly.
that for those that have the opinion that they're not going to vote because they don't like either side, um, yes, I think we all agree that there's problems on both sides. Biden is not a total winner, but we need to take it a step at a time. You need to get rid of the worst and then work on the rest.
Hmm.
So don't stay home just because you feel that one side you don't like both sides. One side is killing you fast and the other side is killing you slower. So you better get rid of the one that's killing you fast, and then you got time to work on the one that's killing you slower.
And stop categorizing, people in a way where you say, well, 30 years ago they said something. Take a good, honest, in-depth look at yourself and think of what you were saying and doing 30 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
That could have been detrimental to other people, your family members, your community, your neighbors.
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
it's a growing process. And
Absolutely.
when you see how someone has worked, may have said something or done something, he's no different from anyone else. But now, 30, 40 years later, they're showing themselves to be someone different. But the bottom line, like you said, Wale, we are we're looking at what this guy, I'm gonna be like Whoopi Goldberg now. What's his name? We see what
Mm-hmm.
what's his name is doing. We are witness to that. I mean, we got what, close to 9 million people who have this infection. We see the other factors that are associated with this infection. And this is one of the reasons why sometimes, remember the Scare Straight program? You got to sometimes scare people straight. They need to really hear what that was like with those
Mm-hmm.
people who did survive, those people who were hospitalized, those people who were on ventilators, and people like these who were infected. Who, I mean, goodness, most of us love to eat. Who wants to smell coffee and it smells like garbage, or you're walking around your house thinking something died in your garage? This is what we're experiencing now. We're watching the numbers continue to rise. These people are gathering at rallies. You know, um, uh, they're still signing disclaimers, I'm sure, so that no one has to take responsibility if they get sick. But that is what we have seen. And let's be clear, 8 months, 8 months, all of this happened in 8 months. And you're willing to take another chance on that for a little stimulus check? You'll get a stimulus check either way because the government is going to work on that. The senator, the House Speaker, they're going to work on the stimulus check either way. But don't fall for the okie doke. Do not go along with these, for people of color, these rappers that come out of the woodwork, and start to talk about now all of a sudden they're going to change sides. Are you serious? Do not put your life in danger because you like their lyrics. It's time to really take a good, serious look at this. Your life, my life, all of our lives, our ability to survive. In the middle of a pandemic, this man is trying to shut down the Affordable Care Act. 34 million people. Right now, the judge just threw out the case where he was ready to throw 700,000 people off of food stamps in a country that is still food insecure. Off of food stamps now.
Yeah. But Biden said the N word 30 years ago. You know, pretty sure Trump
We
said
all
it
saying
yesterday.
it today. So what?
You know, and these are the same rappers who say that word in, regularly. So,
On a
you
regular
know,
basis.
yeah. So, I mean, people, we have to make better decisions. We have to stop this false equivalency. It's not the same. There is no perfect presidential candidate. This is 2020. So whoever you thought was the perfect candidate is not running. But we have a clear choice. We have to make the clear choice. And then we also have to contend with the fact that, you know, we can't listen to every voice in our community because some of those voices are not saying things that are helping to build the community. And unfortunately, we've seen that there are plenty of folks that look like us that are ready to take a check and show up and with the MAGA hat and now the MAGA face mask on and just do somebody else's bidding. And that's an issue we're gonna have to contend with. That's family business. But we know who they are now because everybody came out and it's like an X-ray. It's like, okay, so we know in the pinch, we know not to trust you. or you, you know. And that's just we've always had that to contend with. So that's just something that we're going to have to contend with now. But first and foremost, you have to deal with the most pressing issue first. Right now, America is figuratively on fire with this COVID. You got to put the fire out. um it's not, nobody can make moves while this thing is raging. And as long as we have a government that's just going to ignore it and hope it goes away and puts head in the sand, you know this country is on a it's headed for a really bad train wreck, worse than what we've had. So we all have to take responsibility. So what does this mean for us now? It means what we've been saying from the beginning. You must prepare yourself now for the rest of this fall and the winter. And that starts by making sure you're practicing the protocols. You're wearing your mask, you're giving people social distance, you're using hand sanitizer, you're using protocols when you come in near your house, you're washing your hands first. You're taking off the clothes. You're leaving your shoes by the door. You are washing down areas that you touch. And above all, you are boosting your immune system using nutrients that have been verified. We've been saying this since March, and since we've been saying it, a ton of doctors have agreed with everything we say. And make sure you're getting your vitamin D, your vitamin C, your zinc, all of your nutrients in your system on a regular basis. You need to start now and be building them up for the winter so that your body has the resources, so that in case COVID slips beyond your first line of defenses, your body is ready for it. Your body can handle it, but not if you're not paying attention now. So what is happening now over the next month is maybe the most critical for you to get back on your grind, get back on your protocols, and take this thing seriously.
Yeah, and again, can't stress enough that you really have to pay attention to the holiday seasons
Hmm.
and with how families,
Yeah,
um,
figure out
you
how
know,
you're going to do this. And I look, everybody loves to get together in the holidays and see friends and family, but it's time to make some very very hard decisions about how and what you're going to do. And if you have to have family gatherings on a Zoom call, but it keeps your elders safe, then you better think about how you're going to do that. Um, you know, there's no really two ways about it. I don't know about you, but the idea of running around into stores to shop for Christmas now, I was never big on that. I'll admit that.
don't
I
blame
pretty much feel
the
the
virus for that.
I pretty much feel the same way about it that I've always had.
I have
But
no comment.
but but you Black Friday folks, Black Friday takes on a whole new meaning in the era of COVID.
Yeah.
Really, because a lot of stores, I know the mall near me, a lot of those protocols have been, dropped, where the
Right.
security guy is not at the front desk anymore, making sure people had masks and distributing them to people who didn't have them.
If you
So the lines are starting again, though. I have been noticing that. Where
Yeah.
last couple of months we hadn't had lines at stores, but there are some stores who are you're going back to that process where you're seeing a line down the block and around the corner. And that
Mhm.
certainly as we shut down, hunker down for the winter time, that is going to increase. So you really need to start to think in terms of, now you're going to be out standing on lines in 20, 30-degree weather. It's just that the Zoom meeting or social media, different platforms on social media is the way to go. We have
Mm.
too many incidences of family members. I want to talk about the 13-year-old who gave COVID to 11 family members. And those families came from 4 different states. And the
Mm.
only people they went a vacation home, but the only ones that did not get COVID are the ones that came to visit them, but they socially distanced and they stayed outside and continued to distance and wear masks. Those people were able to return back to their homes untainted. But the other ones that was running around the house, and I can't stress it enough, that your family has nothing to do with your immediate family. People have been tested who live in your home, in your apartment, and then meeting with family members who are coming from other areas, other boroughs, other states. You don't know what they're bringing with you. And this is just not a gift that you want to keep on giving.
Mm-hmm.
So
People,
it's just very scary to think about, but it's something that it's a new normal, and that's part of it. You just got to seriously think in terms of being creative and doing it a different way, or we're going to see the same thing that we had before a couple of months ago in New York,
okay,
particularly in the States.
families need to really take a close look at what's going on around them. If they're going to close down your churches, your houses of worship, your mosques, your synagogues, if they're going to close them down, sure enough, if they're going to close down the courts are not even in session. Uh, you know, your family needs to look at that and say, well, we're going to have to do something about it. It's not that important that everybody comes together. I mean, even if they have made it so that people in nursing homes have a problem seeing their families. People got to see their families behind uh, glass doors and that type of thing. So you have the freedom to not to do this, but you, people need to discipline themselves and look at what's going on around them and know that their family is the same people that are in these courts that are closed. Their family are in the same people that were in these schools that were closed. All of these things were closed for a reason. And if a family can't see that, um, they need to wake up. And I'll tell you something. I have family that is running around looking for to buy property, and they going out of the city on a regular basis. And just today, it just dawned on me in this conversation that I need to address that with them. They traveling all over the place, trying to call themselves looking for property, and they don't know where they're going and what they're getting into and what areas they're going into. So people really need to wake up. We have to wake up, or we're going to be in big trouble.
So, I don't think there's anything else we need to say today. That we haven't said. We just try to share the information. And if it's good news, if it's bad, and if it's ugly, we're going to share the truth as we can find it. And we're not here to scare you. We're here to prepare you. So we will be back next Wednesday. Again, this report has been prepared by Harlem Emergency Network. We're a division of Citizens Emergency Response Network, and you can always reach us at the information on the screen. We're here Wednesday mornings. You can also send us an email or even drop a voice message on our phone line if you feel like you have some information you want to share or something you'd like us to cover on our next report. So we will see you next Wednesday. Stay prepared and stay safe.
Have a great week, all. Stay safe.